Hi guys, welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. We have another treat. The same person who had the listener question before has another listener question. So that is cool. And interestingly, they are linked, even though I will bet a lot of money this person does not know how linked the two questions are. So this is a kind of real world example of how it works when you learn more and more about a client. Of course, this is not my client. I am not in a therapist-client relationship with anybody who listens to this podcast. So that's not a thing, but it is kind of a little bit of an analogy of how later information, can kind of clarify the situation. All right, listen up.
Hi, Dr. Psych Mom. I was just wondering, after listening to your latest podcast that touches on the 8 stages of development, I know you mentioned that sometimes an older individual can be stuck at the previous stage if they experienced, a lack of their needs being met. Is it possible in your opinion, for individuals to actually move ahead in a stage kind of sooner than normal? I'm 30 and I feel that I'm already in the next stage in that I was lucky enough to feel like my self-worth and the love and all that was already sort of validated to me. And I feel that my partner has sort of the opposite experience due to his childhood trauma. But yeah, I wasn't sure if that was even a thing to be able to be ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so there are multiple parts to this. As you remember, this is the person whose boyfriend felt that she was cheating with a dildo. And I gave a lot of tough love on that directed toward him. But we get new color on that relationship with this. However, first I will just straight out answer the question, which is an interesting question. Can you move into the next stage of development quicker if you experience, different things? Yeah, but it's not usually in the direction you're talking about, listener. It's in the other direction. So if somebody had a traumatic childhood, like they were, in war, in, an abusive home life, etc., kind of more like what you're saying about your boyfriend, then frequently they mature faster. They just have to. They have to grow up faster. That leaves holes and deficits. And so sometimes, for example, the person will minimize the need for intimacy because they don't really trust anybody. So they move straight on through how can I make the biggest impact in the world? I'm not going to work one-on-one, with myself. I can't really trust anybody to be in a one-on-one relationship with me, and almost who cares, because there's suffering people out there, just like how I was suffering, and I'm going to make a difference in the world. Either I'm going to make a lot of money and eventually give that back, or I'm going to just devote myself like a martyr to those around me in a positive and a negative way, right? Negative for myself, but positive in terms of the impact I can make. So, for example, little kids really don't move past certain stages. What I think I wasn't clear about, because I wasn't really focusing super heavy on the Erikson stages, there are resolutions that are bad. So in industry versus inferiority, when it's a little kid, they're trying to be good at things. And if they're not good at things, then they develop low self-esteem. So, for example, if you are, in a bad, you said you're in a good family. I'm going to get to that in, in my second part here. Generally, I'll tell you, if people are securely attached, they move through the stages pretty on point. Just like everybody goes through puberty at pretty much the same time and through menopause pretty much at the same time. Psychologically, it's not much different. You're just ready to do certain things as a toddler, ready to do other things as a teenager, ready to do other things when you're old. Yeah, okay, it could be a few years here or there. But you said you were 30. So you're not going to be ready to focus on, so not even the intimate stage at all, which is intimacy versus isolation, the one you're supposed to be in for the next 10 years. You're not going to get out of that 10 years early because you had a positive experience, Also, Now let's kind of move to what I think is like the kind of key interesting part that would get you a bit more bang for your buck here personally, and probably be interesting to a lot of people in a similar situation. When you devote yourself to rescuing a traumatized person, whether you're male or female, so it makes a lot more sense why he's jealous of the dildo, because he never got enough love growing up. He never got enough attention. And so he's obviously the preoccupied attachment partner, but not really, actually. He's probably the fearful avoidant partner, which is the attachment style you get when your childhood was abusive or neglectful. And I have a whole podcast on fearful avoidant if you want to understand him better. Then you come in as the savior, the rescuer. Oh, with your good childhood and all of these things, you're going to be good. You're going to have sex with him every day. If he doesn't, want to get you in the mood, you get yourself in the mood. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You are going to show him what love is all about. You are going to make him, into a healthy man. I mean, you could just hear the intake breath of horror of all of the women in their 40s that listen to my podcast across the nation and the world. They're all like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't sacrifice yourself to this. He will only grow more difficult. He will be jealous of not just the dildo, but even the coffee maker. He will be jealous of all appliances and, of course, your children and pets as well. And he needs to be in his own deep inside-oriented psychotherapy. And you, since you're not married to him and don't have kids with him, need to be thinking deeply about why this is the role that you've taken. Now, when we add in the fact that you think that you're more mature than average, which is basically what you're saying, not in a bad way, but you're saying, I don't even feel like I'm in that stage anymore where I value intimacy. Good trick. You just came up with a reason why to stay with this guy. Because you don't really need very much. You don't need very much in terms of love, in terms of foreplay, in terms of somebody, not yelling at you about a dildo. You don't need very much. Parentified child for the win, I would guess. So this is something to explore in your own therapy, right? Because people that come from super healthy upbringings do not end up staying with very volatile, jealous people from traumatized upbringings. Now, when you're adding in this idea where you say, like, I'm kind of more mature than average due to my upbringing, it just does not sit well with me, and it would be something interesting to explore in individual work, right? What it sounds to me is that you were always told that you were so mature and precocious and an old soul. And so you became somebody who's an expert at dealing with difficult people. Who's an expert at dealing with difficult people? Somebody whose parent was a difficult person. So you know how to tiptoe through the tulips and walk on eggshells like a ballerina. And now you're doing it in this relationship. And then you seem very smart. So philosophically, post hoc, you've come up with a rationalization, which is that you don't really need, that kind of intimacy at this age. You've moved on. You're more at the life meaning. And what can give a life more meaning than helping this guy out who struggles so mightily and healing him, which ironically shows definitively that you are still in the intimacy versus isolation stage, because otherwise you would have zero patience with this. And you would say, after the first time that he got mad at you about the dildo, you would say, I really just don't think this is working out, And you certainly would not be devoted enough to be asking me about it and figuring out how you could best explain it to tell him that a dildo is not a person. So ironically, you are, happily, you're right on track. You're right on track prioritizing the intimate relationship. Unfortunately, the intimate relationship sounds a bit difficult. And by a bit, I mean very. The guy has an extensive, background that is difficult, trauma history, very reactive, easily angered, rejection sensitive, and jealous. So, who are you going to be in that relationship, right? You are going to be the one who's expected to do what you always did. Be the good one, be the calm one. I recommend that you read the Drama of the Gifted Child book. And it's not gifted like how we mean it now. It's gifted like you were the good one. Always so good, plug and play. Nobody had to worry about you. Maybe you had a real difficult sibling. Maybe that's the difficult person. Either way, I bet dollars to donuts that there was a difficult person in your upbringing that you were the counterpoint for, and that your ability to minimize your own needs because, conveniently you deny them. You don't even notice them. You're not lying. You just never trained to notice your own needs or think that you have many, to the point that you do not even think you're in an intimacy versus isolation stage. You think you're 10 years ahead. Why not 20? Why not 40? Either way, you are minimizing your very real need for intimate reciprocity, which does not possibly seem, or probably by the previous question, seem to be there in this relationship. So what do I conclude from this? I conclude that you, like mostly everybody listening, ought to be working on some of this stuff in individual work. And specifically, you can look at my podcast on the man-child and his long-suffering wife, because that's kind of, where you may end up. Also, I would really listen to the Fearful Avoidant podcast and read about having a partner with an abuse history. And you need to think about where you got into this more codependent style. And usually that is just straight up from the upbringing, where one is the good one is the problem, and the good one is always, helping the problem person and trying with their patience and love to, meet that person's needs. And conveniently enough, they don't have any needs. So awesome sauce. You don't have any needs anyway. So here you can devote yourself wholly to this person. And that isn't fair. And it is a thing that women regret mightily in later life when they think, wait, hold on. Why didn't I ever have a guy who's trying to take care of me? And I'm sure he watches what you want on TV sometimes or whatever, but you really got to think deeply about whether your needs, even just your hypothetical needs, if you just say, oh, maybe I do have the same needs as literally, any other 30-year-old woman, is he meeting those? Is he meeting any? I also have a post on when it's not cute that your husband can't take care of things anymore, and I have plenty of stuff on red flags. And being jealous and controlling is a pretty big one. And I hope I gave you so much to think about. Thank you so much for all the questions, both of these questions. They are really, interestingly interwoven. And, keep on writing or telling other questions, because it's fun for everybody. And I hopefully think that it's quite interesting and useful for you. So thanks to everybody for listening. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.